the measure of the inequality, that is, first one is anonymity principle, then population principle, relative principle, transfer axiom, or Pigou-Dalton criteria. These are the four important measure of the income or measure of the inequality. First, consider the anonymity principle. Anonymity principle, it's the context of measuring income inequality means that the income inequality means that the identity of individuals within a population should not matter when calculating inequality. Only the distribution of income level across the population is relevant. That ensure the measures remain the same even if individuals are rearranged. So, this principle states that if inequality measure should not be rely on knowing who earns what income, only the relative income levels within the population. For example, if you swap the incomes of two individuals in a society according to the anonymity principle, the overall level of income inequality should remain unchanged. Suppose we consider that three individual like person A, B and C, their income level, suppose A it's $100, B it's $500 and C is 1000. According to the anonymity principle, if we were to calculate income inequality for this community, it would be the same regardless of whether we listed the incomes like A's income, B's income, and C's income, or CAB or BCA. The only thing that matters is the relative income level, not who it's assigned which income level. They are all in this category. The arrangement is not important, but they are in uh, the principle is that calculating income inequality for this community, person A, person B and person C. Here I consider ABC, but I can also write 1000, 100, 500, as well as 500, 100, 1000 and 100, 500 and 1000 in such a way. But no matter, uh, the person who it's from the higher income it's come first, and then the lower income will be the second or third, but in a they are under the income inequality. Next, consider the population principle. A population principle measure of the income inequality. It's one that only consider the relative distribution of income across different income level within a population. That meaning is total population size itself does not affect the calculated inequality level. For example, Gini coefficients were a country with a larger population, but the small income distribution pattern will have the same Gini coefficient as the smaller population with the same income distribution. So, this principle said that whatever be the population size, that does not affect the inequality level. If a country its higher population, then the but same income distribution pattern will be have the same Gini coefficient as a smaller population with the same income distribution. In case of relative principle as an inequality measure means that only the relative differences in income or wealth differ between individuals within a population matter, not the absolute level of income. So even if everyone's income increase proportionately, then the level of inequality remain the same as long as the relative position within the income distribution stay the same. For example, consider the two societies, society A and society B. Society A have three individuals. Their income level is $100, $200, and $300. The difference between individual 1 to individual 2 to individual 3, it's 100. And for society B, individual earn 200, 400, and 600. Their difference is 200. So society B has the higher absolute income level. Both societies have the same level of relative inequality. Why? Because the income gaps between individuals are proportionately the same. That is considered as the relative principle. The income inequality measure, that is transfer axiom, also known as the Pigou-Dalton principle. It's a fundamental concept in measuring income inequality, starting with if income is transferred from richer person to the poorer person, then overall level of inequality must be reduced. That can shown in an example. That is, if person A income 1000 and person B income 500, if uh, suppose 200 rupees uh, transferred to person B, then the income will be 700, and his income, person A's income, will be 800. So according to the transfer axiom, since the transfer is from a richer individual to a poorer individual, any valid inequality measure should also decrease in overall inequality after this transfer. This is also called progressive transfer. And other measure of the income inequality is Gini. That Gini index measures that the extent to which the distribution of income or consumptions among individual or households within an economy deviates from perfectly equality distribution. Gini index of 0 represent perfect equality. If 0, that means perfect equality. And if an index it hundreds implies perfect inequality. So here we can show in this way, this is perfect equality curve. And when this Lorentz curve it's going to this equality curve, then inequality also reduce. And there are other measures of inequality. Other measure of inequality can be considered as the range. Range is a crude measure or a chief measure of inequality. Range can be calculated as, suppose consider small community where the annual income of the resident range is 10,000 to 1 lakh, and calculating the range, that is highest income, this highest income, this is lowest income, so highest income minus lowest income be the range. and the other formula can be maximum income minus minimum income divided by average income. It's also give the value of inequality, that is here. And the this is mean absolute deviation. Mean absolute deviation is actually not a very good measure of inequality. It has some serious drawbacks. Moreover, it does not have a compensatory feature. These drawbacks that it often does not satisfy the does not Dalton principle. There are some formulas how to calculate the mean absolute deviation. Yi it's a mean value a number of population, yi income level. So mean absolute deviation is equal to 1 by n into mu sum of I equal to 1 to n. I means there are n number of individual, and mod of yi minus mu we can write in such a way that mu is equal to 1 by n mu sum of I it's equal to 1 to n mod of yi minus mu, or 1 by n mu sum of I is equal to 1 to n mod of yi minus mu. So the distance between average income and actual income inequality will change if the transfer happen between mu and I will not change if a higher. So how can we calculate the mean absolute deviation? That is, consider a small community. Their income level is first 10,000, then 15,000, then 20. This is considered as a dollar, $10, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, 50,000. First, consider the average of these five members. Suppose the average value it's x. So how can we calculate the absolute deviation? That is, for person A, $10,000 minus x, and getting a value. And second person similarly, third person, fourth person, and fifth person, we getting the value. The calculation of the mean absolute deviation add up all the absolute deviation and divide by the number of people. Suppose we get for p1 x1 mean absolute deviation value, p2 that is x2, p3 x3, p4 x4, and p5 it's x5. So all add up them and then divided by 5, we get a value. That is, value means absolute deviation. Finally we get, that means suppose we get y and the actual mean that was x. Suppose x is considered as 26,000 and this deviation value, absolute mean deviation is 26,000 and this is 35,000. So which one is greater, x or y? We can easily say that x is greater than y, that means 35,000 it's greater than 26,000. So the actual and expected, it's differ. So the calculation of the absolute mean deviation is straightforward measure, but it does not consider distribution of income disparity across the population, unlike other inequality. So a very single very high or low income can significantly impact the mean absolute deviation. And the other measure is coefficient of coefficient of variation for the income inequality. So the formula is standard deviation by mean into 100. So how can we calculate? Suppose the income level of the pupil, it's like this, and we can calculate the mean. Suppose this is x by 6, we get x bar. This is the mean value. And from there, we can get standard deviation. Here standard deviation, it's first variation is uh, so how can we calculate the coefficient of variation? We can shown a very good example, that is there are there is a sample of 6 people, and we get mean, and then calculate xi minus x bar to get sample variance, and from variance we get standard deviation. We know that the coefficient of variation, it's equal to standard deviation by mean. What is our standard deviation? That is 6 by 5, uh, 6 by 5, root of 6 by 5 divided by mean. What was our mean? 6, sorry, 3. Yes, so the sample mean was 3. So we can divide standard deviation by mean, that is 3, and we get the value ultimately, and that is the coefficient of variation. That is one kinds of the measure of inequality. There are some advantage. It allows for direct comparison between different data sets with significantly different means, even if they are measured in different units.